So look, I was on the internet today and I was looking at YouTube and I ran across this guy right here. His name is Aaron Dalty. He's actually been on YouTube for a while and he talks about meditation, he talks about consciousness, he talks about biofeedback, all the things that I'm interested in. And if you're watching this channel, all the things you're interested in. But he mentioned something important. He talked about the CIA Gateway Experience. If you're familiar with the Gateway Experience, the Gateway Project is a system of exercises that helps people improve their consciousness and gain better understanding of higher self. But the thing is about this particular experiment, it was done by the CIA in the 1980s. It was a secret experiment. And this guy, his uncle, I want to say his uncle or his grandfather in the video he was talking about, I believe it's his grandfather. His grandfather worked in the government at that time and talked to him about that experience. So just naturally, the way my mind works is I get to surfing online and I start seeing some of the documents. Let me show you some of the documents here. Let's look them out. So look, this thing was a whole project, dude. So and I'll let you read that yourself. But if you Google the Gateway Experience, this pulls up. But this is the thing. I also ran across another video of his. So I want to react to it. I hadn't seen it. I thought the guy was interesting. I mean, just look at him. He looks like an interesting character. So let's do this. I want to react with it with you guys in real time. So I hadn't seen it. We're going to do this together and we're going to talk about throughout the process. So lock in with me. Let's get it.
What if there was hidden esoteric information about how reality works that was so powerful it was literally kept from the average person's awareness? What if the CIA actually had documents that were forbidden or hidden documents that talk about the exact topics I'm going to be sharing with you in this video?
I wouldn't be surprised if they had hidden tapes and hidden things that are hidden from the public. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, hopefully that doesn't get me banned. But the thing is that we are coming into new information these days. And if you are surprised by the information that we're coming into, I don't know where you've been. You've been under the rock. Let's get it.
And what if you understood these concepts, it would completely transform your worldview about what reality is, and it would empower you in a completely new way. Now, what I'm going to share with you is something that I learned 6 years ago, and it comes from these right here. These called the Gateway Experience. It's a set of DVDs from the 70s and the 80s, or not even DVDs, but CDs that are meditations. That actually, these cost, when I bought this back in 2017, it cost $500. And the reason I bought this is because someone that I know, that I've known my whole entire life, shared with me and said, if you get these exact CDs and you listen to these meditations, it will completely transform your consciousness. It will.
I don't think people understand when we say transform your consciousness and what it feels like. It's a feeling. This is the experience that we're looking for. You know, a lot of us is looking for a purpose in different things that we do, but it all begins with consciousness, right? It all begins with consciousness.
Expand your awareness. This person is someone that I knew my entire life. And also, once they saw me making YouTube videos in 2017 and my YouTube channel started to grow, they saw that I was into these kind of things. And he very blatantly told me, get these CDs, it will transform your life, and begin listening to the meditations. So I went online, I found that I thought it was going to be like $60, $500 used.
Where good stuff costs
these CDs right here. And basically what they are, it's a specific technology called HemiSync that you use that of headphones with, that puts your brainwave frequency into a certain pattern that then allows you to access different states of consciousness.
So if you guys haven't been following my channel, so first of all, if you're new to this channel, do me a favor, like and subscribe, because we talk about this kind of thing. But I'm a neurofeedback practitioner and I work with brain training. So essentially we take we non-invasively train the brain so that it function properly using electrodes and science and all of that good stuff. So when I started to work in this field, training the brain in a non-invasive manner to help with behaviors and getting the brain to do certain things. What we're trying to do is get the brain to communicate between the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere and get all these connections firing off, right? The brain is a powerful thing, but then you have the brain, which is the physical component, the organ. Then you have the mind, which is the consciousness. Some people call it the seat of the soul.
Now, with what I'm going to share with you in this video, it has to do with a very specific technique that is called patterning. Now, patterning, and in the CIA document that I want to share with you, it says this technique involves the use of consciousness to achieve desired objectives in the physical, emotional, or intellectual sphere. It involves concentrations on the desired objective while in a focus 12 state.
It's interesting. Focus 12 state. Lock that in. Focus 12 state. I'm not exactly sure what that is. That's excellent.
So a focus 12 state, there's a certain DVD in here, or CD. I keep saying DVD. Right. And once you experience focus 12, it's a certain frequency, a certain brainwave state that you get into where, in a way, your subconscious is more influenced, but also you have the ability to just feel into different states of emotion much easier.
Feel.
Now, basically,
feel. This is the key to manifestation. We must feel. Back in the day when when people start getting to the law of attraction, most of us just, think thoughts become things. Thoughts become things. That's the electrical impulse. But the magnet that draws it to you is the feeling. Gotta tap into the feeling.
What this document shows, the CIA document that was hidden for a long time. There's a specific, and even the meditation in here called patterning, that's specifically the one that I've been listening to, that I was listening to, especially in 2017, that was helping me get into a certain state of consciousness. And then what I would do is I would imagine myself as the version of me that was already in the reality that I preferred.
So what that means is, and just kind of connected with this dude, that's fire. So when we manifest, you hear people say become it or be that version of yourself now, but it's not physical, it's emotionally. What would it feel like for you to be this millionaire? Or what would it feel like for you to accomplish whatever goal that is? You want to tap into that feeling. What I say is pick 3 feelings, right? So let's use a millionaire. Let's say you became a millionaire today. What would those emotions be? Most people, freedom, all right? Security. Let's just use those 2. So anytime that we're feeling free or freedom, we are in alignment. That means that millionaire experience is coming to us. It's not different from that freedom and the freedom that you become a millionaire, because the difference is the money. We think that the money is the thing we want. We actually want the emotion that the said experience brings us.
So I'd imagine how that version of me would think, feel, act as if it already existed. And what I would do is I would stay in that state in this meditation. Now, this particular methodology is based on the belief that the thought patterns generated by our consciousness in a state of expanded awareness create holograms which represent the situation we desire to bring about, and in doing so, establish the basis for actual realization of that goal. So let me kind of summarize that.
Break that down for you.
In certain states of consciousness, in certain brainwave activities that we can get into using the power of meditation, when we feel in that state and we visualize it, what we end up doing is creating a certain holographic energy. Like literally our reality is based on energy. Everything in our reality is based on energy, and everything is vibrating at a certain frequency. What this CIA document is mentioning, what these tapes kind of also are talking about, is that when you get to a certain state of consciousness and you feel a specific way, you then are amplifying an energy that attracts to you more holograms that are in resonance with that energy you are emitting.
So just as I explained, so if we're tapping into the feeling of more financial abundance, correct? We connect that with the emotion. Once we start tapping into that emotion, the key goal is not to manifest the money. Think about money all day. No, the key goal is to is to tap into the emotion that resonates with the feeling of abundance. That's what we want to do. We want to tap into the emotion that resonates with the feeling of abundance and let it go. A lot of us try to hyper focus on it and figure out the how. I need to do this. I need to do this. But then we get into an experience that doesn't align with that. So it knocks us off our rocker. Just tap into the energy. Stay in the energy.
This also, I believe, if you look at the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Oh, yeah. Love Uncle Joe.
which
Uncle
it's
Joe.
all about meditation and connecting to the quantum field and feeling and creating a new sense of self, a new sense of connection to a new vision as if it's happening now. So many people experience miraculous healings, transformations from this. It literally could be based in what this is actually saying, the CIA document is saying. Now, here is something to be mindful of. This is a warning, okay? This is not BS. It actually says this. Monroe trainers, so Robert Monroe was the person that was studying out-of-body experiences, astral projection, remote viewing. There was a government organization that eventually, in a way, they would test, and they would get people that would test these different things on and to see what is reality. And what this document is pretty much the findings from doing these different type of exercises. Now, Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute and the trainers caution against attempting to force the pace of this process because the individual could succeed in dislocating his existing reality with drastic consequences. Think about that. Basically, what it's saying is that if you get into this state of consciousness and you feel as if it's happening now, but you try to rush it, what you could end up doing is forcing a situation to happen that is actually undesired but goes against the forcing of what you were trying to do. For example, I remember reading this in the book and watching, when I became obsessed with this back in 2017, I was watching YouTube videos. There's a guy named Thomas Campbell who was one of the, he's like a scientist that talks about a lot about what's called the big toe, the big theory of everything, which has to do with our reality being a simulation, kind of like a virtual reality that we live in, and this is the avatar. He was someone that tested and that worked a lot with the kind of like the Monroe technology back in the 70s and the 80s. But basically, one thing that it cautioned against is like, for example, I want $100,000. I want $100,000. I want $100,000. Focusing on the $100,000. You already have the $100,000.
He about to reinforce what I just said. Lock in with me. Come on now. Hit that share button. Hit that subscribe button. We're doing this together. Let's get it.
But if you try to force it, what it said could happen is maybe something undesirable happens, like someone passes away and you inherit that money. You inherit money. So trying to force a specific situation in the hologram of reality
Heard it. All
may
money ain't
begin
good
bringing
money.
it to you, but maybe in ways that are unpleasant. Maybe in ways that you don't actually prefer. So with what I'm sharing with you in this video, it's important to understand there's a pace, there's a process to all of this. And what you want to do and what I recommend and what I've been doing and the way I've really manifested the abundance in my life is by visualizing myself being in the frequency of what I want to experience as if it's happening now.
Right now.
And feeling into that every single day. Neville Goddard, separate from this whole CIA.
Neville Goddard. If you hadn't heard of Neville Goddard, look him up. It's an old school guy, and he talks about the imagination is God, or the imagination is the creator, and that's where all creation comes from, is the imagination.
A document gateway experience thing. He talked a lot about as you're going to bed at night, feel as if you are that version of you now.
Give me a second. One last thing. As you're going to bed at night, they talk about that. Your brain goes into two different states, alpha and theta. It transitions as you're shifting to sleep. When your brain is in those states, I work with the brain. When your brain is in those states, it's in a highly suggestible state. So that is the best time to reinforce your affirmations. That's the best time to create your visualizations. But this is the thing. A lot of people go to bed angry, or they go to bed dreading the next day. You're also reinforcing that experience. Think about what you're doing. This is where consciousness come into play. Create your reality by understanding what state your brains are in. Your brain is in.
As you do so, you are influencing your own subconscious mind. And as you do that, you literally begin to reorganize your frequency, reorganize your energy, and you begin to believe more in this new potential. You begin to believe more in this new version of you. Now, with what I'm sharing with all of this, something else I believe that is also beyond just the identity part of this, something else I wanted to share when it comes to hidden esoteric knowledge is something that comes from a book called Reality Transurfing. I have not talked about this book in a very, very long time with good reason, because when I was, it was just, anyways, I haven't been talking about Reality Transurfing for a very long time, even though it's a very powerful book. It's written by a quantum physicist named Vadim Zeland in Russia. It's been then transcribed to English. Back in 2017-18, I made a ton of videos about this, and then I stopped because I think basically what happened is I was sending thousands and thousands of people to buy this book called Reality Transurfing. But what happened is there were people from certain organizations that taught reality transurfing that didn't like that I was getting so many views about that. And basically those it became this whole BS I had to deal with, where even though I'm pretty much selling the book for them and sending people to this idea and to these concepts, it was like I don't think they liked the fact that I looked like a reality transurfing expert when I wasn't. I was just sharing a book, but there's all the legality. I don't think I wasn't even doing anything illegal. I was just sharing a book and selling and pretty much sending people to it. Anyways, I didn't talk about it for 3 years because it was a lot of BS. I think that BS is over, so I'm going to share a concept from it. There's a concept from Reality Transurfing, which is all about understanding in a way what's called the space of variations. There is this infinite quantum possibilities that exist. So what Reality Transurfing,
I get into Marvel. If you like Marvel, he's about to talk about Doctor Strange, right? These are the Doctor Strange concepts where, based off a decision, a million things can happen with one particular situation.
Surfing talks a lot about is it talks about gliding through what is called the space of variation. And one of the main things that I've gained benefit from this is understanding a concept that has to do with increased and decreased importance. Anything we make very important, we put on a pedestal, and the universe then gives a reality that is equal to that resistance.
Cool, perfect. Think about when you're trying to go out to a significant other, right? And you're so lonely and you'll never find anyone. It's like, man, I really want to get into this relationship. What does this person offer me? I want to, and then oftentimes they resist. But when you say, you know what, I'm just focusing on myself, trying to get myself aligned, working on developing, becoming the best me, opportunities just show up. In my business, I'll tell people all the time, I never market. I don't market at all. I shoot some YouTube videos a little bit or some TikTok videos talking about neurofeedback brain training, but I never market. I'm also pretty much booked up all the time. Now, there are times where it's slower than usual, but for the most part, I never have to worry about a client ever, okay? So when we're forcing things to happen, I want this, it's like it's running away from you. But when you sit there and just allow things to happen, they happen.
So if you put a job that you want on a pedestal, you are energetically severed from it, because it'd be really, really cool if it would happen. It's resistance. Balanced forces from the universe come into place to make sure that stays balanced out, which means you don't get that which you want if you really, really want it. If you put someone else on a pedestal, it then creates resistance around that. It creates increased importance on them, and then the energy's all messed up, and that person will honestly kind of also feel that desperate, needy energy, and it's unattractive. But in reality transurfing terms, this is all about understanding that balance of energy. So one of the things I learned is you want it to be natural for you to experience what you want. It's natural for you to be abundant. It is natural for you to be in a loving relationship. It is natural for you to have that.
Everything that you want is for you. There's infinite possibilities. There is a version of yourself that already has the things that you want for yourself. You have to tap in into that frequency, become that version. Imagine what that version is like of you. Who is that version? How does he or she act? How does he or she operate? What do they think? What do they eat? How do they carry themselves? Tap into that, create, right? And you have to know. I said this in another video. You have to know that this is the natural order of things. You are supposed to have it. So I told my wife the other day, I said, you know what? I want to tap into freedom. I want to tap in. I'm just creating my YouTube channel. I want to tap into what it feels like to create a life from YouTube or a life from content. I want to create that experience. So I imagine what it will feel like to get up and to create content, passionate content, being able to be myself. I just imagine that. And I'm doing that right now. So what happens is people wait until, well, when I get here, I'm going to do that. When I get there, I'm going to do that. No, it's happening right now. Be that right now. Tap into that version, become that version. You are already that version.
That role that you want or the business that you want. When you let it be natural, it completely changes the energy dynamic.
Facts.
So that was one concept. The other concept I want to share is something called pendulums. Reality transurfing is a concept called pendulums that has to do with thought structures. The idea is that even though you can't see physically certain thought structures, the idea is that because we're in a collective consciousness and we're all connected together, what happens is there's literally thoughts that come around us that we can't necessarily see. And when we're interacting with other people, we're in a way activating these different thought forms. I know this sounds esoteric, but just bear with me for a minute. Now, what pendulum...
Yeah, sometimes these terms can throw us off, but just settle down, look up the meaning, and look up similar words because they're not as, I call them tree huggery. They're not as tree huggery as we think. Sometimes we can break these things down and get a good understanding of what these words mean, and then it all comes and makes sense. So don't get lost in the lingo. It'll make sense here in a second.
Pendulums, the goal of a pendulum is to gain more energy. Pendulums are thought structures that also exist within our reality, and there are very big thought structures because there are billions of people thinking similar thoughts. For example, being Republican or Democrat, whichever one you are, there are pendulums around both.
Don't matter.
And when there are thought structures around both, there's like almost like a rules of what it means to be a Democrat or Republican. And these two pendulums fight each other because they want to be right. There are pendulums around football teams. There are pendulums around sports. There are pendulums around movies, around music. There's a pendulum around my YouTube channel. And the idea behind pendulums is it gains energy the more people that focus on it. Now what happens is when you start going down and you start taking on certain pendulums, it can, in a way, dominate your thoughts. So some people...
Yep. And this is not for this, but religion. On either side of it, if you're religious or if you're atheist, you are locked into a state. And there's no room for, I don't want to say growth. That's not the right word. But there's no room for open-mindedness, as I would say. This is the absolute truth. And it is that for you, Republican, Democrat, just as he said. I always said one day, whenever after the election, I said somebody's, there's going to be a group of people who are going to be who's going to be extremely excited, but then there's going to be a group of people who are going to say they're cheated, and vice versa. Either way, hopefully this doesn't push too many people away. But again, my content is for my tribe. That's just simply what it has to be. Okay, but let's keep going.
Start focusing on, like I see it happen a lot, conspiracy theory. They go down a rabbit hole.
That's a rabbit hole too.
So much of their life, and their field becomes very interesting, kind of like scattered, or it's like there's a lot of debris in it because they're thinking of all these things that honestly have a lot of resistance a lot of times.
It's one-sided.
But then they tune more easily to more of it. The goal of pendulums is to gain energy. Now the thing is pendulums will keep you from living in your authentic truth. They will keep you from expressing your true self. And pendulums are not always bad, but in general, they have their own intention. They have their own goal.
It just doesn't allow you to grow. Like again, I don't care what side you are on the religious side or on the political side, on the gender role side. I don't care what side you're on. The thing is it locks you into a state. It doesn't allow space for open mindedness. And when you allow space for open mindedness, if you not play the middle, and a lot of people say you need to decide. No, you find a space and you allow yourself to open up to those ideas and those ideas. You can reject those ideas and those ideas, right? You're essentially your own authentic self.
That's why it's very important to become aware of what and when pendulums may be taking your power from you.
Right.
There's pendulums around the news. There's pendulums around sports. There's pendulums around just about everything. So when people watch the news and they think they're having their own thoughts, many times it's a pendulum that's overtaking them. Then they get into fear, and that keeps them from being in their true frequency, keeps them from creating their own reality
That fear is
and
a
harnessing their
whole
own
nother
energy.
level.
So pendulums, in a way, are like thought structures that you may not visibly see, but may have a certain power if you put all your energy in it and you're not aware of it. Now, what is the process of defeating a pendulum? You can't.
I think it's balance.
You can't. The more
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, Hunter. I think it's balance. I don't know if you defeat it, but I think you become aware. Once you're aware of it, then you can decide what it is that you want. When you're unaware, and again, consciousness, you can become overly anything. And if you're overly anything, you have this resistance towards the opposite or the opposer. But when you find the middle ground and the imbalance, I think you're open to say, that's an interesting idea. I disagree with that, but that's an interesting. You're being again your authentic self. You can decide.
you fight a pendulum, the more it grows. You see this happening when people are running for president. One person, basically whoever has the stronger pendulum as a president normally wins. Because even if you fight a pendulum, you're feeding it energy. It's like, for example, when you see Trump running for president, he gets a lot of attention. He has a lot of people that are very fanatic about him, that very much like him and want him to win. And you have a lot of people.
Then you have a lot. I know you're about to say you have a lot of people that want him to lose, but all of it is what? Say it with me. Energy. Energy. All of it is energy. Floyd Mayweather used to fight in boxing, and he would say, all the people that's paying to see me win and paying to see me lose, guess what? They paying.
People that really don't want him to win. That actually feeds his pendulum. The other people I think of that had very strong pendulums back in the day, as if you talk about the YouTube sphere, Logan Paul, David Dobrik, they have very strong pendulums. And I remember especially back in the day, it would grow to such an extent that they were at this very high, like an unattainable level of influence. But sometimes what happens with pendulums is once there's especially if there's a certain degree of like kind of getting lost in it, it smacks it, it humbles it. And that was what happened with both Logan Paul and David Dobrik. I find it very interesting. And the purpose of these pendulums and the power in it is observing them and ignoring them if it's running your life in a negative way. The news, like you ignore the news, you don't fight the news, you just don't watch it. You don't tune to it.
Right. A lot of times I tell people I don't watch the news. They think I'm uninformed. No. Hey, I heard somebody say today that TikTok is the people's TV. YouTube is the people's TV, right? I hadn't watched the news in probably about 7 or 8 years. And then one day I was watching a football game and the news came on right after it. And I gave it a chance. The first five stories were crime, murders, break-ins. And think about this as a civilian and you hear about a break-in in your area. You can't feel good about that. They're playing on say it with me, your energy. But what is energy? Energy is emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. You have to learn how to balance that out. Let's get it.
Become aware of that energy. So pendulums, in a way, are thought structures, and it's this weird kind of hidden esoteric concept. But once I started becoming aware of it, I started to become more aware of even the music I listen to.
Facts. Oh, my goodness.
Because you want to know something interesting? There's certain frequencies most popular music is tuned to that keeps people in a certain frequency. I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that.
Let me know if y'all seen the movie. What is it? They cloned Tyrone at the end when they were underground. They was doing those experiments, playing certain type of music. But let me show you even about music. Music represents an emotion as well. When you go to church, you're not listening to gangster rap, right? When you're interacting with your lady or your significant other, you're not putting on some hardcore. You're putting on some nice smooth music, some R&B, trying to set the scene, right? That's what I'm saying. So music absolutely represented an emotion. But if we're not thinking about the frequencies that's behind the music. It's not that deep to most of us. Oh, it's just music. Oh no, it's not. Oh no, it's not.
Certain frequency of 432 hertz, which is like the frequency of the heart, frequency of love.
Yep.
I've heard music in general is not allowed to really be at that frequency. I don't know how true this is, but I do know that a lot of
Not on the radio.
music is tuned to just a little bit above or below that. That kind of like keeps people in dissonance. I also think
My bad, I'm stopping again. But listen, look up the research regarding music in your DNA. Look that up. Music and your DNA.
this sometimes when I talk about. I talked to Bashar about this as well. I will say that. Like, Bashar, a big fan of, been watching his content for like 10, 15 years since I've been on my awakening. I actually talked about reality transurfing and pendulums when I was asking him questions once. And basically he said that within our collective consciousness, there are certain archetypes. And these archetypes we can begin to take on by tuning to it and embodying it.
Become what we
There
think
are
about
archetypes for
and
the king,
feel.
the lover. Basically, if you look at the tarot, there's a lot of different like archetypes you can connect to. There's even people within our own collective consciousness. I remember talking to a buddy of mine back in the day. It was actually an old assistant of mine. And he was telling me that he loved Conor McGregor. So he would like walk like Conor McGregor. He would work out like Conor McGregor. And he said that literally he felt like because Conor McGregor has a very big back. He's like very good back like muscles and stuff. And he's like his back became bigger and he felt like he was becoming it. I always thought that was kind of interesting. But there are these archetypes within our collective consciousness that we can begin to become aware of. And that's kind of what Bashar hinted at. There are these archetypes within our reality that we can tune to. And if we want to reap the benefits of certain qualities we want to embody more of, courage, vulnerability, right. These are all different, like empowerment. And we can begin to then tune to these. Now, one other thing I want to talk about that I believe that is very much kept within a certain, that has kept people within a certain energy is that of group intention.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Before he goes, just imagine when they talk about when a group of people pray together, it becomes intensified. And not when I mean pray together, I mean pray on one individual thought and idea back behind emotion becomes powerful.
And when a lot of people are in fear, I believe that they're also easier to control. So that's why I think 99.9% of everything you see on the news is negative. Mm-hmm. Keeps people contracted, keep people in fear. It's a pendulum. And when you withdraw your energy from it, you can then put it towards your goals. You can put it towards what you're passionate about. You can grow more energy there. And that's why one thing that I like to do at my live events, and we do in general, all these group Om activations, which funny enough, by the way, we do these Oms where we all Om, like hundreds of us, if not thousands of us, will Om at a certain frequency, activate the energy in our hearts and connect to everyone on the planet that's doing it at the same time. And that as we do that, it like amplifies our heart energy, creates more mind-heart coherence, and it taps into group intention. Group intention is also like from the book Think and Grow Rich, where it talks about that of the mastermind principle. Mm-hmm. When one person's focused on something, there's a certain energy. When two people focus on something, that energy grows. When three or more people are focused on...
Think about sports, yo. So, you know, especially when you get to the professional level, you know, all of these guys are good. Now, there are obviously different in talent levels, but when we think about sports, You just have teams that have this cohesiveness that works to well together. We could think about the Chiefs. We could think about that run that Golden State had for a while. It was the core. They had this core group, right? And it was like boom. But that's the thing, group intention, where we're all locked in on one idea. We understand the goal, we understand our role, and no egos is involved. Oh man, that group is powerful.
On one outcome, it's like you have more people's thought energy growing that vision. It's very powerful. That's why masterminds are so big. There are people that are focused on a similar outcome, and you benefit from the collective energy of it.
Facts.
So what happens is that is in a way, by doing and having people that are focused on opening their hearts, doing these Om activations, what I was going to say is there's this thing called resonant tuning, where in these meditations, sometimes it can be kind of freaky listening to these meditations, because at a certain point you're supposed to go, do this like thing while you're in meditation, and it sounds kind of scary. You're listening to other people, like a course, like a choir doing this, it feels like kind of, I remember the first time I listened to it, I was like, this is kind of weird. Maybe I'll turn my lights on a little bit. But in general, it's resonant frequency tuning for elevating your frequency.
It's only weird because we wasn't taught this as kids. We wasn't taught this in school. We wasn't taught this from during those early years of development. We wasn't taught this. So now that we're being exposed to this quote unquote new information, this is ancient information. This is ancient information. Now that we've been exposed to it, it feels weird. Sometimes you got to go against the grain.
And tuning the cells in your body. Now, when many people get together with one unified intention and activate their heart energy with a specific outcome, it is very powerful.
Extremely powerful.
Now, something else that I find very interesting is I have these meditations on YouTube, and I have met so many people that have shared with me crazy things about what's happened from listening to them. I'm like, why is this happening? For example, I met someone in Costa Rica recently that was at a retreat that said that they listened to that of the meditation, how to raise your dominant vibration permanently by listening to this meditation. It has almost like 2 million views on YouTube. They said that they listened to this meditation on 4/20, and they remember the date, and they said that they simply believed that they were going to shift and raise their dominant vibration permanently, and this person was depressed. Said they were depressed, they couldn't break that like energy of depression.
And that energy of depression these are brainwave frequencies. These are brainwave frequencies. So I find it very interesting when they say they were able to change their dominant brainwave frequency for permanently. That's very interesting to me. That's very interesting to me. And a lot of times what we want to do, and a lot of people say increase alpha, but just increasing alpha may not do the trick. But we do want to have a good alpha response. Alpha is the idling rhythm in the brain, pretty much associated with an ideal relaxation level.
Confused. She did this meditation and literally said she was never depressed again. Years later, I see her at this retreat, and she said she was never depressed again. Her dominant vibration did raise. And it was a meditation for raising your dominant vibration permanently. And I thought to myself, why are these meditations so powerful? And then I thought about it. I was like, did you read the comments to this meditation? And she said, yes. She's like, you see thousands of comments from this meditation of people saying their lives changed, their vibration raised, and they're genuine comments from people. I think what happens is people then see that. It increases the belief it can happen for them. And then in the meditation, there's certainty that you're going to shift. And then you do.
Oh, man.
So in a way, it's like there's belief here. Like our beliefs create our reality. Even beyond beliefs, it's who are you being? What is your identity? But your worldview begins to change when you realize that reality is like holograms.
Some of the stuff that we spend so much time worrying about doesn't matter. It does not matter. Well, does this matter? Nope. Like it doesn't matter. So when you start when you find yourself in this place of peace and balance and really raising your level of consciousness, it can seem like you lack care for a lot of things, but in reality, the things that don't matter, you don't give it value, and you don't give it what's value? Energy. Energy, emotion. We don't give it that. Don't give it that.
It's literally you are shifting based on your energy to different reality potentials based on the energy you are embodying. So meditations are one of the most powerful way of transforming your life to feel and to tap into the possibility of a new version of you.
Facts.
So when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the Gateway experience, these, $500 that I spent on these back in 2017. Basically, the one that has had the most powerful impact on me is called patterning or repatterning. And repatterning is connecting to the frequency of this new you. It's visualizing it as if it's here now, being it, and understanding that reality is just different. Everything's vibrating at a different frequency. As you change your energy, you change your life. Realize there are thought structures, there are thought forms, there is a reason the news is negative. I believe that, I'm not trying to be conspiracy theory, like put fear into you. I'm just saying.
No, it's not putting fear. It's the reality. Turn to it and tell me, first of all, measure how you feel prior to watching it, and then measure how you feel afterwards. But a lot of times people aren't aware with how they feel. We're just going through the motions. We're just literally, when they talk about, man, just I can't think of it. But when we're just going through the motions, we're not present. But then you start asking some real questions, right? They don't want you to ask those questions. So when you ask those questions, you get labeled conspiracy theorists. You get labeled to avoid answering the question. But the reality of it is the news only gives you the bad news. Just call it that. Call it the bad news. Call it the bad news.
Be aware of where you put your energy. Be aware of the pendulums you're buying into. I know when I watch Breaking Bad, that's a pendulum I'm buying into.
Facts.
But the show's so damn good, I don't even care.
Enjoy yourself, my brother.
Same with Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, yeah. Enjoy yourself, my
I'll
brother.
just list off all the shows I've ever watched.
Yes, sir.
But in general, become aware of how that might be influencing your consciousness. Awareness really is the key here. But also be aware of the other side of this. Don't try to force it. Yeah, it's called, he engages in this resonant tuning, as it's called, by humming along with the course of such sounds that are contained in the Gateway tape. Following this, the participant is exposed to the Gateway of affirmation and is encouraged to repeat it to himself as he hears it repeated on the tape. There's these phrases you say, like, I deeply want to expand my consciousness, and there's like these affirmations that you say. In general, though, what we can learn from all these CIA documents, all this hidden esoteric information, is that I believe there are people on the planet that know, and if you keep people within a certain level of consciousness, you keep them kind of disempowered, feeding the pendulums of the things that you want. However, you gain your power back.
You cannot win off a group of people that are aware. You only can win off of people who are unaware. And what I mean win, consume. They are consumers. They want you to consume, not just money. Everything is all about money. It's not just about money. It's consume. They want you to consume the television. Tell your vision. Television. Right. Telling your vision what to visualize. Interesting.
As you become aware of it, as you stop feeding it, as you ignore it, as you put it into your ideal reality, understand that meditation may be.
So this is the thing. We got to tap in. I enjoyed him. I don't think he spoke a lot about the tapes. However, the information that was presented was very informative. It was necessary. It just reinforces where we're going. Just remember that this world is waking up. This is waking up. A lot of us have jobs to do. And what I mean by jobs to do, we play a part in increasing the awakening or the consciousness among the planet. And, since 2020, for sure, he talked about 2017. My awakening started around 2016, 2017. There was a lot of questions behind it. And there is this part where it feels very lonely. There's this part where you feel like you've been removed from normal society. No one gets you, but you have to embrace that. Embrace that change to realize that you are fortunate enough to come to this level of consciousness. And everything that I've created in my life has been from these principles right here. So now the main thing is to decide what you want to create. Okay? Like, share, and subscribe. Tune in. Peace.
It get hotter in the summer, yeah. Hotter in the summer. The winter don't stand no chances. Hotter in the summer.